Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Monday morning to you all. I hope you guys are doing great out there this morning and having a wonderful start to your day and a great beginning to your new week out there so far. Definitely happy to be back. The vacation was awesome, made a lot of good memories, and just spending time with the family. We went to Dollywood. If you don't know where I've been in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, but went to Dollywood, Ober Mountain, and rode a lot of roller coasters, went to a water park. It was definitely fun, but I am happy to be back. I'm a routine kind of person, so I'm definitely not the type of person, and we're not the type of family that needs a vacation for 7 days or anything like that. So definitely happy to be back and get back in the swing of things. But here to talk about the weather, the first thing we'll go over is today's weather. We'll speak on current conditions, the latest outlooks, and then we'll break down the country section by section. There is severe weather chances. We'll speak specifically on the heat. How hot could it potentially get this afternoon to this evening for certain areas of the country? We'll zoom into individual areas, spend a little bit more time on the temperature part of things than we normally do, just to get you guys a really good idea of how hot it could potentially get for later on. And after we get done doing that, we'll discuss the pattern coming up and all that good stuff. I do want to let you guys know if I'm a little rusty, just the flow isn't there. Well, I have not made a video in about 4 or 5 days, so got to get back in the swing of things and get the rhythm going and all that good stuff. So if you notice some hiccups, some stalls, messing up of words, well, it's just because I've been away for a while. So you might notice a difference with the video too. I'm going to speak on that probably in a video later in the week. I've been teasing the fact that there was updates coming to the channel. I actually got a new computer now, so the resolution to the video should be much better. So definitely check the option underneath the video where you can actually tweak up the resolution. It should go above 1080 now to 1440, and my face might be clear, in the bottom corner there. So I'm going to continue to tweak things here and there. Put more things in the backdrop and continue just to gradually add things to this channel and make the setup better. One of the big steps was upgrading my computer. I've done that, and I just want to give a special thanks to Chris in Nebraska and his family. He definitely hooked me up, so appreciate you very much, buddy. But with that being said, let's get rocking and rolling. If you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. Now let's get rock and roll. I'm telling you, I'm going to be a little rusty. So this is current conditions. The avenue of moisture continues to surge sort of south to north around the axis of a ridge of high pressure that is centered over the eastern U.S. So most of our flow is just kind of going up, and then it kind of gets all the way up in Canada and then eventually surges back down, but there really isn't any energy on this side of the ridge right now. So we got some big thunderstorms up in Canada, a big area of thunderstorms surging right now through northeast areas of Minnesota. We got rain in Minnesota across a good section of the state. We do have rain in eastern Nebraska, eastern South Dakota. A little bit of energy. We've had some snow in the higher elevations of the Rockies. Been pretty wild with a lot of colder than average air in place across the northern Rockies. You know, it was snowing in Yellowstone National Park, at least areas of it. So been some pretty wild weather with a big time temperature gradient from west to east. So this is current conditions. We'll move off this. Watches, warnings, and advisories. We'll update this, see if we got any new information. We don't. There's nothing going off the tip of Florida. I know my head's kind of in the way, but these orange areas, if you're wondering, these are heat advisories. So the heat is flexing. It is very hot. We have flood watches up across areas in New Mexico and western Texas. Some red flag warnings across Colorado and Utah. And but you know, the heat is the big story right now as far as the watches, warnings, and advisories and all that stuff. We are going to get a more severe weather later on this afternoon to this evening. Now, speaking on the tropics, right now, there will be another update here in about an hour. We've had a sneaky little system out here in the Atlantic. Now, it's not really bothering anybody, but anybody, unless you're out here, on a boat or something like that, shipping. But the only thing this is really bothering is the fishes out there in the surface of the ocean. But this is Invest 90L. And, yesterday around this time, this had about a 10 or 20% chance of developing. Now it has a 70% chance of developing into a tropical depression or maybe a named storm. The first name is Andrea. I believe that's how you pronounce it. And if it does turn into a storm, all it will do is pretty much take a name out the hurricane list of names. So right now, there's nothing at all concerning about this whatsoever. If it does develop into a storm, not going to bother really anybody. So I did just kind of want to show you that. And this is it. If you look really closely, underneath this mid to upper level convection, there is a lower level spin, which this is what the National Hurricane Center really looks for when these systems are trying to get their act together. That low level circulation is really the heart and soul of these tropical systems. And we will talk more on that as we get deeper into hurricane season and really have an actual system to break down. This is a system, but this is already heading out into the northern Atlantic, or at least further north in the northern Atlantic. And it looks like it's already losing some of its mid-level convection. So it's kind of displaced from that lower level circulation. But this is it, way out here in the North Atlantic. So we'll continue to move forward here. The latest from the Storm Prediction Center as far as their outlook, we have a level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather in the yellow. In the dark green, that is a level 1 out of 5, a marginal risk of severe weather. In the light green, that is a general risk of thunderstorms. Now we'll zoom into this. Hopefully it comes up pretty clear. Des Moines, Omaha, Lincoln. Congratulations to the LSU Tigers for winning the national championship. You beat Coastal 2 out of 3 of those games. So if you're an LSU fan, congratulations, and you're tuning in, definitely say hey. Des Moines, Cedar Rapids, Dubuque, up to La Crosse, Madison, all the way up to just north of Milwaukee, Green Bay, and my friends up here in the central to eastern UP of Michigan. You guys have a level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather in northern lower sections of Michigan. So what's driving this? A tornado threat is at a 2% risk in this entire green area. So I'll zoom in, sort of go across these regions as slow as possible without stalling the video too much. But a 2% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in any given location. The wind threat is really what's driving this slight risk for today. So this entire yellow area has a 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour. Once again, I'll zoom into these areas and just go across the board here, get you guys a really good idea of what's going on. And then the hail threats. Right now, just a large 5% risk of hail. This really isn't a big-time hail maker at all. Now, let's take a look at the excessive rainfall outlook, a bimodal risk of this. As far as a slight risk, the yellow area is a 15% risk of flash flooding occurring within 25 miles in any given location. You do have flood watches down here. So watch out in the eastern sections of New Mexico and extreme western areas of Texas. And across areas of the Midwest and the Central Plains, from Dodge City up through Omaha, Manhattan, Topeka, Des Moines, kind of the same areas that run the higher risk of severe weather. You guys also have that 15% risk of rainfall exceeding flash flood guidance within 25 miles in a given location in these areas for today. So here's a zoomed out look at everything. Now, moving forward here, let's break down the southeast first. And I'm not going to zoom into anybody here, but really you're being dominated by high pressure. And really the only area that has a chance or a shot, a lucky soul I would have had, of seeing a downpour or a storm is when you get away from the actual center of high pressure, which is centered sort of in this area right here. But the flow is going around the high pressure like this. So that's why, if I kind of back this up, if I get this in motion, you see some of these pop-up showers and storms are kind of moving more so east to west. So they're pivoting around this high pressure. So pop-up activity looks, if anybody's going to get it, it's most likely going to be the Panhandle of Florida, Alabama, maybe up the middle Tennessee, points west. I'm not seeing much in the way of it in Georgia and the Carolinas, but listen, you could definitely see it. It's just kind of one of those days where if you look at your weather app, there's a 10 to 20% chance of rain, but you don't know if a downpour is just going to pop up right over your house. So even though you're dealing with the sinking air from the ridge of high pressure overhead, you can still get just a pop-up shower or storm. It's always going to happen somewhere. It's just who's going to see it, and it's impossible to really figure out who. Now, looking at the Northeast today, quieter weather compared to maybe the last several days. We get into this afternoon, really doesn't look like a whole lot of anything, but we could get an organized complex of storms that hits northern Maine up here later this evening. But the HRRR model isn't very enthusiastic about it or anything like that. But there is the possibility, if any state is going to see any kind of rain or storm activity, it's going to be Maine. But this particular model run doesn't get a whole lot going. The down east areas of Maine after midnight get some shower and storm activity. But moving forward here and looking at the south central U.S., we're going to get a lot of rain and storm activity. Now, this is when you get on the outer edge of the ridge, the western side of this ridge. So you definitely have more of a moist flow, sort of the jet is digging down here and then shooting up on top of this ridge. So you're getting widespread showers and storms surging from south to north up through areas of New Mexico, western Texas, sort of two flows working in tandem. You kind of got this going on. I'm going to draw on this a little bit. Kind of got a flow kind of wrapping up like this, and then a flow kind of going up like that. So this acts to work together for enough kind of push in the atmosphere and enough moisture pool in the atmosphere. So all this stuff down here really driven off a little bit of flow, but mainly just thermodynamics and just pop-up activity in Louisiana and southeast Texas. But over here, you could actually get flash flooding. So we get this in motion, just some showers and storms in New Mexico, western Texas. And then once you get into Kansas, and maybe even the panhandle of Oklahoma, some of these could hit severe limits. And they definitely could in New Mexico or Texas too. But as far as how much rainfall could happen in these areas, I do not have estimated rainfall, but we will look at the HRRR model here. And it is indicating some heavier rainfall totals down here, maybe a couple inches. But you can see how splotchy in nature is. The rain here is in Louisiana and southeast Texas. But I will take a zoomed in look at Kansas just because you guys have a higher risk of severe weather. And starting it this morning, then taking it into this afternoon, boom, there's those storms forming up near Hays, north of it. Dodge City could get it too. Liberal, Garden City. This is 6 p.m., 7 p.m. time frame up here if I miss it. And the storms look the most intense up here in the northern to northeastern areas of the state. So kind of north of Hays, maybe north of Manhattan. These storms could pack some damaging winds, maybe even a brief tornado, some hail is possible, and just more organized and potentially more strong to severe up here in northern Kansas. And we could get an organized area of strong to severe storms in southeast Colorado, moving into southwest Kansas also. So be aware of that. That'll be later this evening. And we still have the storm action ongoing in northeast and Kansas. And then more activity could fire up overnight, but it does look like it calms down by the time we hit daybreak tomorrow. Now, I will show you Missouri too. I'll include you guys in the south central frame. The only area I would say watch out for in Missouri is maybe the northwestern areas of the state up near St. Joseph points north. You guys could get some nasty weather that moves out of Nebraska and Kansas later this evening. So this is 11 p.m. Most of the state is fine, but the far northwestern area of the state could get some strong to severe storms later this evening. So be aware of that. Now, the north central U.S., this will be by far our most active area as far as high impact weather. And just taking a broad look at things, we got an area of storms that could potentially move into the UP. And then this is when the storms become widespread this afternoon in areas of Iowa, southeast Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan. And it just looks like it could storm all night for areas of Nebraska, Iowa, and eventually some action moving into Wisconsin. But just taking a closer look at these areas. Let's start off by looking at Nebraska. And we start to get into about midday today. Pretty quiet in Nebraska. But then we start to get into, say, 5 p.m., 6 p.m. A lot of storm activity sort of south of Omaha to Lincoln to Grand Island. This corridor points south. I really think we got to watch out for a sneaky higher end tornado threat, but not a high end tornado threat, if that makes sense. So this is 6 p.m. 7 p.m., strong to severe storms look likely in the southeastern areas of Nebraska. And it just looks very stormy. And then some of this action could overspread further north into eastern areas of Nebraska. So this is 9 p.m., 10 p.m., 11 p.m., midnight, and then more storms get going for the southern half of Nebraska. Kind of around midnight, we get more pop-up activity forming everywhere. And we could get some heavier areas of rain to make it all the way to the central portion of the state. Still storming like crazy in the eastern areas of Nebraska. And we take it into about daybreak, and certainly still dealing with storms in the Omaha, Lincoln area up to Sioux City. So definitely could be just a stormy time in Nebraska over the next 24 hours. In Iowa, this is what you're looking at. And, one thing I want to flip back and look here at is how much rainfall could happen between now and the next 36 hours, between now and 7 p.m. tomorrow. So this kind of shade of red here, that's over 2 inches of rain. So, Lincoln to Omaha itself could get 1 to 2 inches of rain, but south of these areas, maybe, 1.5 inches to 3 inches of rain. But a good bit of rain will fall in the state over the next 36 hours. Now, Iowa, starting it off this morning, pretty quiet weather. Then we get into about early afternoon. Some storms could fire from Denison up to Fort Dodge, Mason City. And these storms could be all severe. Decorah, hopefully I said that right, down to Waterloo, Marshalltown. Look at these storms firing up here. And you see the pink and white areas. This indicates stronger to severe, more high impact severe weather as possible with this. Damaging winds, maybe even a tornado. But you can see the axis of this kind of going through this area of the state. And we continue to move forward here, and these storms sort of sink southward or form south. And now they're stretching from the southwest corner of Iowa all the way to the northeast corner and going right through the middle of the state. So Des Moines, Ames could get hit by strong to severe storms around dinner time tonight. And then we get to about 9, 10, 11. A lot of heavy rain still moving in, especially for the southern half of the state. Could continue just to get complexes of storms, and a good chunk of the state will at least see some form of rainfall. The only area that might escape most of it is the southeastern area of the state, but we start to take it all the way until tomorrow morning, and it's still raining for areas of Iowa. So once again, we'll look at this and how much rainfall could happen between now and the next 36 hours, and the corridor of heaviest rain is right through the heart of Iowa. I mean, these red areas, that's over 2 inches of rain. So if you live in these regions, basically through the heart of Iowa, anywhere from 1 inch to 2.5 inches of rain is possible to likely in this area between now and 7 p.m. Tomorrow. So, I will briefly show you Illinois, but the only area of the state I would say watch out for could get pop-up activity in southern areas of Indiana and Illinois, but more organized activity is possible, kind of north of Davenport and Rockford. So 10 p.m. we got some storms kind of west of Rockford, and these could be strong to severe and produce a lot of heavy rainfall. A little bit of downpour activity in the middle of the night tonight in Chicago is very possible. But we continue to move forward here, and I would just watch out for the far northwestern area of the state. And then Minnesota, most of your action will be in the southern area of the state. So, this is around 2 p.m. You see the storms forming in Rochester. And this is around 4 p.m. I'm going to have to move it down a little bit. Heavy activity down near Rochester. Strong to severe thunderstorm activity forming. Could get a lot of heavy rain down here, but 90% of the state will be fine. It's just you get down there near Rochester in the far southeast corner of Minnesota. If you live down there, you could get some heavy activity this afternoon to this evening. And then you look at Wisconsin here. We're going to deal with an organized area of storms most likely for the northern areas of the state. And you see these circles coming off some of these storms indicating more stronger, intense updrafts could produce all hazard, maybe even a tornado threat later this morning. And then this activity will sort of die off as it gets into the western half of the UP. And then we start to get into 3 p.m., and that's when kind of the same axis of storms that is in southeast Minnesota and the heart of Iowa will move into central Wisconsin. So these storms will definitely pack a punch. That's why you got a slight risk in place, and there could be a tornado threat with this. So just if you're in the central areas of Wisconsin, be aware of that. And you continue to move forward here, and you get about 6 p.m., storms look more organized a little bit further south now. Oshkosh, and then getting down to Madison, 7 p.m. These storms begin to hit you guys. Could begin to lose some steam, though. This is 8 p.m. This is 9 p.m., 10 p.m., 11 p.m., midnight. And then more activity could get going. So this is like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. So the boundary could shift back north. It could sag south and shift back north. That's why these storms are sort of pivoting like this. But we look at the 48-hour forecast of rainfall. Once you get into the southern half of Wisconsin, over 1 inch to 2 inches of rain could fall. So be aware of the rainfall. And then lower Michigan, most of the state seems fine today. You get into the northern sections of lower Michigan, like right up to where it connects to the UP. Strong to severe storms are possible to likely later this evening, 9, 10 p.m. And we'll just have to see what leftover energy survives over Lake Michigan, but it doesn't look that active. And then the UP, watch out for some storms in the western UP later this morning. These could pack a punch. And then we get into, say, 5, 6 p.m. Some storms are possible that could hit severe limits, produce a quick spin up, but really produce some damaging winds. In the eastern UP of Michigan, chance that maybe the central portion of the state kind of just misses both, but you could get hit by both. So just be aware of that. Then most of the energy stays to your south. So definitely a corridor of ingredients that support severe weather that'll spike up into the UP for a period as we get into the later evening hours. Now, the western U.S. is pretty quiet. There's not really anything to speak on. We've already talked about New Mexico. Watch out for some organized storms in southeast Colorado for today. This area of storms could pack a punch in southeast Colorado, so just be aware of that. But the rest of the western U.S. is pretty quiet. So temperatures. Now I'm going to zoom into a couple areas, and then we'll take more of a broad look at the western U.S. But these are forecast high temperatures for today across the deep south. I mean, it's hot. It's nothing crazy. But once you get into the Carolinas, upper 90s to low 100s for predicted high temperatures. Across the deep south in Florida, I mean, this is typical summer type stuff, but it is hot. I've lived here all my life in central South Carolina. I can tell you, I've still have never got used to the heat. I don't know if I 100% believe people that say they have. I mean, when it's this hot, it's brutal. What's a bit of an anomaly compared to average high temperatures this time of the year is once you get into Virginia and North Carolina and the D.C. corridor. For example, in Baltimore and D.C., they're going for 101 degrees a day. Upper 90s in New Jersey. There's going to be areas probably in PA that hit over 100. Look at southern New England. Could get the upper 90s, low 100s. Just 90s everywhere unless you live in the higher elevations of the Appalachian Mountains. Just very hot temperatures. And then you look at the rest of the Northeast. I mean, the only area that won't be brutally hot is Maine. But, I mean, it is hot across New England. It is, this is a little bit further west. I mean, look how hot it is in these areas. And I mean, even looking up into the Great Lakes region, the upper Midwest, you can see where the boundary is. You see where the boundary is right here, separating hot, soupy air with not so bad temperatures. And another great way to look at this is when you look at the national forecast. You see this boundary right here? Right here, separating pleasant, almost kind of spring, fall-like temperatures with full raging summer across the east central and eastern U.S. That is because the ridge is built across this region. Okay, ridge of high pressure. So that might not be exactly where the center is, but you get what I'm saying. So if you're on the warm side of that ridge, the warm side of the boundary, well, you're going to be pretty hot. So temperatures out west, this is what you're looking like. You're already warming back up. You're losing the influence of that trough. But weather over the next few days, this is the Storm Prediction Center for tomorrow. As far as their outlook, we do have a large area of the country that at least runs a risk of severe weather. So a marginal risk, level 1 out of 5, stretching from the high plains all the way across the Midwest, all the way across areas of the Ohio Valley into the interior areas of New England. A big area of the country at least runs a risk of thunderstorms. We do have a slight risk across the central and northern high plains. Tornado threat is at a a 2% risk. The wind threat is at a 15% risk. And the hail threat is at a 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. But there is a 10% risk of significant sized hail. So this could be one of those setups that favors some monster hailstorms around the Denver metro, of the Cheyenne. The Front Range into eastern Colorado can produce some big time hailstorms. So tomorrow might be a day for that. So, you look at the risk of excessive rainfall for tomorrow. And listen, there is a moderate risk of flash flooding for areas in New Mexico. 40% risk of flooding to occur. So be aware of that. Santa Fe and these areas of New Mexico. And then there is a 15% risk of flash flooding in the entire, well, not the entire, but almost the entire state of Iowa, but a good chunk of the Midwest across these regions. And then you look at the day 3 outlook, and we have a marginal risk stretching across these regions up here. And then the southeast has a marginal risk. And I really think this is more so driven off. Let's see what it says here. I think there's lower pressure getting trapped under the ridge, a little upper low, which is creating enough flow with all the heat to produce maybe the shot at more widespread thunderstorms and maybe a risk of severe weather. And this is for Wednesday. So as far as after this, there's nothing really showing up as far as any areas to really watch at day 4, Thursday onward. So I won't pull that up. But once again, there is a slight risk of flash flooding for areas of the Midwest for Wednesday and then down here in New Mexico. And it's crazy. You can see the actual axis of the ridge just based off this map. But what's driving this pattern? We'll start off this evening. The red you see on your screen, this is high pressure. The blue, this lower pressure. So right now, I'm going to draw a little bit on this. The flow, let's see if we can find some good colors. The flow around this high pressure goes like this. So it kind of goes like this, shoots up like that, and then kind of goes like this and like that. Now, you can get embedded areas of energy that kind of slide down a little bit more steep down the ridge, things like that. But the main flow is around the center of that high pressure, okay, which, for example, for this evening will probably be somewhere around here, which is why some of your hottest temperatures is along that DC corridor that we just broke down as far as the temperatures. If you're wondering why is it hotter in DC, Baltimore, New Jersey than it is, say, in Georgia, it's because the center of the high pressure is right over the area. So that's why these areas are so hot for today. Now, at the same time, you got flow kind of going around this upper low, this lower pressure. So this is kind of working in tandem with the flow right into here. And just because you see sort of these red colors on your map, that doesn't mean you can't get any storms in these areas. Remember that this is the pattern at 500 millibars, about 18,000 feet up in the air. So you're still going to get some storm action here. You're definitely going to get some storm action to here. Remember, the center of the high pressure is right in here, so don't focus so much on the darker colors. I think a lot of people do that. Center of the high pressure is right over this region, so flow will work around this area just like that. It's called the ring of fire, kind of just some goofy terminology from us weather people. Johnny Cash logo there. But anyways, this kind of pattern will hang with us for a little bit, but you can see how things begin to change a little bit. We get into tomorrow, Steel Ridge right over the eastern U.S., and the placement of this ridge of high pressure does sink southward, so it starts to move kind of over areas of the upper southeast, the central Alps. So some of your hotter temperatures will actually be in the Carolinas tomorrow, where you'll get into the low 100s, at least a higher chance to hit the low 100s. But you continue to move forward here. We get into Wednesday. The ridge kind of begins to weaken. We get this bit of a lower pressure right here, and I think that this is what will generate a risk of severe weather across the southeast. You see sort of this area kind of right into here. That's some lower pressure. So a little bit of flow working around that. That will generate a risk of strong to severe thunderstorm activity across this region. Not everybody will see it. But moving forward here, you can actually see that blue that will pop up on the map a little bit on Florida as we move into Thursday. But still just ridging over the eastern U.S., so it's going to remain hot. As long as it doesn't symbolize everything with a pattern. It doesn't tell us everything. But as long as you are seeing kind of that warmer color on your screen, higher pressure that you're seeing over areas of the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic, you're probably going to deal with above average temperatures. And you continue to get all the way into the weekend, and unfortunately the ridge sort of looks to hang around for a good chunk of the country, especially the eastern U.S. And we get all the way into next week. Could have a trough that dips down between day 7 and day 10. This could cool us down for a period. This could introduce a higher risk of strong to severe thunderstorms maybe across the eastern U.S. as that trough sort of digs down and cuts and breaks down that ridge, and then it looks like the ridge kind of builds back in. So we'll continue to watch things here and there. But as far as temperatures compared to average, the warmer colors you see on your screen are obviously temperatures that are above average. So if your average high temperature is 88 degrees this time of the year, and if you look at here and it says, you know, this color matches up to, I don't know, 9 degrees above average, then your highs might be in the mid to upper 90s. So you get into tomorrow, above average temperatures dominating the eastern U.S. and areas of the central U.S., below average temperatures around the ridge. You can quite literally see the placement of the ridge of high pressure just based off temperature anomalies here. And I can actually draw on this. It goes right, not a great color at all. It goes right around this area, just like that. So high pressure somewhere into there. And if you're being influenced by that high pressure, you're going to be dealing with above average temperatures. So you continue to move into the 27th, 28th, you get into this weekend, and you know, the temperatures don't look as crazy above average, but more of a widespread area of the country looks to run a shot at least some temperatures are at least slightly above average. So if your average high is 88, 90 degrees, could be in the low to mid 90s. But it just looks like as we are getting into the last days of June, the first couple of days of July, it just definitely looks like a good chunk of the country could experience above average temperatures. Now, there's that little bit of a cool down that I just mentioned, maybe the first couple of days of July, but I don't think that'll hang around too long. But we'll have to see. Maybe we get a little break around the 4th of July for the eastern U.S., but normally that break means above average temperatures of precipitation. So, of course, you don't want it to be raining when we're shooting off fireworks and stuff like that. But above average temperature chances, 6 to 10 day outlook just runs from the 28th to the 2nd of July. Most of the country going with a decent shot of above average temperatures. And the precipitation outlook, a good chunk of the country runs a shot of above average precipitation. So that's good. You know, it stinks when we're dealing with above average temperature chances with below average precipitation chances, but at least we're dealing with above average precipitation chances. And then we look at the 8 to 14 day outlook, and we'll just stop it there. That's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. And we'll get back to the devotions tomorrow, and we'll start to do more of them compared to what we've been doing over the last several weeks and months. We'll try to bump it up to 4 weeks. So we'll get back to that. Just trying to get back in the swing of things and routine of things. God bless all y'all. Have a wonderful day. Stay cool, and we'll talk to you again soon.